that everyone and anyone would jettison our 31 years of combined experience that is now at the helm of the FBI, delivering historic results at historic speeds for the American people.
So you have no evidence?
I got a lot of evidence, and I'll give it to you when I can.
Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois is not improvising here. He is building a record. He starts with reports of a purge inside the FBI, then approximately 40 officials asked to sit for polygraph exams, then questions about loyalty, not to the Constitution, but allegedly to the man now sitting in the director's chair. Kash Patel is the director of the FBI. He controls one of the most powerful investigative agencies in the country, and Durbin moves carefully. Epstein files, 100,000 records, documents mentioning President Trump, an unsigned DOJ-FBI memorandum, then Dan Bongino, and the January 6th pipe bombs. Watch the pattern. Specific questions, broad answers, evidence promised, but not shown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, in addition to the extensive purge of nonpartisan career FBI official reports indicate that dozens of remaining officials have been subjected to polygraph exams to test their loyalty. My understanding is that approximately 40 officials have been asked to sit for a polygraph during your administration, and several have been asked whether they have ever made negative comments about you. Director Patel, FBI agents pledge their loyalty to the Constitution of the United States, not you personally. What is the basis for requiring polygraph exams of your workforce and asking them if they've made negative comments about you?
I don't know what reports you're referring to, Ranking Member, and I reject any reporting that has false information in it, so I'm not going to respond to that. As far as polygraphs go, generally they are always and always have been utilized at the FBI to track down those that leak sensitive information and have unauthorized disclosures to the media, and we will continue to use them to ensure the integrity of the FBI.
Did any individual on your senior executive team, the director's advisory team, or who serve in the positions on the 7th floor receive disqualifying alerts on their polygraphs?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the personnel discussions that were had on a polygraph. Those are private discussions, and many of them relate to ongoing investigations.
Did you or Attorney General Bondi provide any individual with a waiver so they could remain employed after they received disqualifying alerts on their polygraphs?
I'll have to get back to you.
You don't remember that?
No, sir. My priority is protecting the American public, not getting into the weeds of polygraphs.
And to have a decent memory when you come before a committee.
I'm happy to talk about all the good work the men and women of the FBI are doing, including provided the lowest crime rate in American history. If you want to talk about how to protect the citizens, Chicago has seen a 30% reduction in its murder rate because of the men and women of the FBI.
You take credit for that?
I'll happily do that. The interagency partners and the men and women of the Chicago PD have never been more powerful.
Include local law enforcement, please.
Have you ever seen my testimony across this country where I always lead with our interagency partnerships with state and local law enforcement? It is the pillar of what I am doing. And on the 7th floor, for the first time in FBI history, I have installed police officers and sheriffs right on my 7th floor to report to us every day what's going around the country on the street level, because that is a priority of the FBI and is the only way we are going to work. I don't take credit for anything, but I will defend the men and women of the FBI and the cops that help us get it done.
You should. Director Patel, to your knowledge, did a whistleblower ever make a disclosure to Attorney General Bondi indicating that the New York field office was withholding Epstein-related records?
I'm not familiar with that whistleblower.
You know that there was such a whistleblower?
I'm not familiar with that whistleblower.
In response to the blowback she received, Attorney General Bondi also pushed the FBI to review approximately 100,000 Epstein-related records on an arbitrarily short deadline in March, and the FBI was directed to flag any documents that mentioned President Trump. Nothing came of that review until July, when DOJ and FBI released an unsigned memorandum stating there is no incriminating client list. Why was this July 7th memorandum unsigned?
Would you prefer I've used AutoPen?
Well, why was it unsigned?
The memorandum had the insignia of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And in our effort to secure transparency for the American people, because the 3 prior administrations had not done so, we conducted an exhaustive search of everything related to the Epstein cases, and we produced what was legally and permissibly able to be produced to Congress and the American public.
So
and there's a congressional subpoena, and we're continuing to do so.
Did you personally direct that investigation so that you would sign such a...
Did I personally direct what investigation?
Of the Epstein records for any reference to President Trump?
Again, you are citing reporting that I think is baseless. We conducted an investigation of the Epstein case files pursuant to the direction of the President of the administration to provide all credible information, and we are working with Congress pursuant to a congressional subpoena to turn over all the documents we can. All individuals.
Who at DOJ and FBI was responsible for its drafting and conclusions?
Many individuals at the Department of Justice and the FBI are responsible.
There was no lead person?
The Attorney General leads the Department of Justice, and I lead the FBI.
So the Attorney General is responsible for that?
The Attorney General leads the Department of Justice.
Director Patel, much like you, Deputy Director Dan Bongino was a conspiracy theorist who built a lucrative career making inflammatory and unsubstantiated statements about the FBI that would be disqualifying in any administration that cared about nonpartisan law enforcement. For instance, Mr. Bongino called the placement of pipe bombs outside the DNC and RNC headquarters on January 6, quote, an inside job, and went on to say this was a setup. I have zero doubt, and whoever goes into the FBI, you better get an answer about why. Director Patel, you and Deputy Director Bongino are now leading the FBI. What is the evidence to suggest the pipe bombs placed outside of the DNC and RNC on January 6 were an inside job?
I appreciate the opportunity to discuss Director Bongino's mine record. So many on this committee and the media jettison our 31 years of public service.
Can you answer the question, sir?
I'm answering the question. You're questioning the integrity of the Deputy Director of the FBI and mine.
If you found any
and I'm
evidence.
going to answer the question. The pipe bomb investigation is ongoing, and I'm not going to discuss the details of the pipe bomb investigation. Mr. Bongino was a Secret Service agent for 15 years, a police officer for 5. I served this country in multiple administrations for 16 years. We were also private citizens, and we are now back in government service. And what we have the ability to do is set aside our personal beliefs to deliver the mission of justice for this country, and we're doing it day in and day out. And I find it disgusting that everyone and anyone would jettison our 31 years of combined experience that is now at the helm of the FBI, delivering historic results at historic speeds for the American people.
So you have no evidence?
I got a lot of evidence, and I'll give it to you when I can.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's a New York Times story this morning about Chris Meyer. As I understand it, he was your personal pilot, at least for some period of time. Mr. Meyer has quite a record himself. Flew over 350 hours as an Air Force pilot on 3 aircraft types in Afghanistan. Mr. Jardina, another former FBI agent, a 1999 graduate of U.S. Naval Academy, commanded 100 Marines in combat during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, participated in several firefights, followed up with 2011 deployment as reservist to Afghanistan, where he interrogated senior Taliban officials. It appears that you terminated these 2 agents. Why?
I'm not going to get into personnel decisions that we made.
So you're not accountable for your decisions to take people who've served our country so admirably and terminate them without any cause?
That's a one-sided story. Anyone that has been terminated from the FBI, generally speaking, failed to meet the needs of the FBI and uphold their constitutional duties. And you providing a one-sided story from your perch is absolutely disgraceful, because the men and women of the FBI deserve better. And your attack on the current leadership of the men and women of the FBI is equally disgraceful, because now you're attacking the leaders that are our brave SACs in the field who are doing the job that this country needs.
It's disgraceful.
And we will continue to do it.
Excuse me, it's disgraceful when Mr. Meyer and Mr. Jardina, who served our country so well, are terminated apparently because of the rants of a broadcaster.
That is your opinion. It is not a fact.
Well,
What Durbin exposes here is not one isolated answer. It is a pattern. He asks about polygraphs and loyalty. Patel answers about leaks. He asks whether senior officials received disqualifying alerts. Patel says he will not discuss personnel. He asks whether anyone received a waiver after failing a polygraph. Patel says he will have to get back to the committee. That is not a minor gap. This is sworn testimony from the director of the FBI. The question is whether the most powerful investigative agency in the country is being run by rules rules or by personal loyalty. Because if career officials believe their future depends on pleasing the director, that does not stay inside the 7th floor. It reaches field offices. It reaches investigations. It reaches the ordinary person waiting for the FBI to follow facts instead of politics. Then, Durbin moves to the Epstein files. According to Durbin's questioning, the FBI reviewed roughly 100,000 Epstein-related records on a short deadline, and documents mentioning President Trump were allegedly flagged. Then, DOJ and FBI released a July memorandum saying there was no incriminating client list, but the memorandum was unsigned. That is where the record matters. Not the seal, not the logo, the record. Who drafted it? Who reviewed it? Who reached the conclusion? Who put a name behind it? Patel says many people were responsible. That answer spreads accountability so thin, it almost disappears. And then Durbin brings Dan Bongino into the timeline. Bongino was not being quoted as a random broadcaster anymore. He is now deputy director of the FBI. Durbin reads his past claim that the January 6th pipe bombs were an inside job and a setup. Then he asks the only question that matters in a legal record. What evidence supports that claim? Patel does not provide it. He says the investigation is ongoing. He defends Bongino's years of service. He defends his own career. He says he has a lot of evidence and will give it when he can. But that does not resolve the issue. A resume is not evidence. Service is not a substitute for proof. And in a democracy, law enforcement leaders do not get to carry conspiracy claims into power without being tested against the files. Then Durbin names the fired agents, not statistics, names, military service, combat history, years inside the system. Patel refuses to discuss the personnel decisions and calls Durbin's framing one-sided. Maybe there are facts outside this clip. Maybe there are files the public has not seen. But inside this record, the same structure repeats. Specific questions, broad defenses, documents, but no signature, evidence, but not today, names, but no explanation. That is why this moment matters. Public trust is not built by slogans about law and order. It is built by traceability. Who ordered it? Who signed it? Who was removed? Who benefited? Who answered? And when nobody owns the record, accountability has nowhere to land.